The live stream is much clearer than the Hangouts.
Did you post the URL for YouTube?
I was just about to.
Oh, okay.
Or do you want to?
I don't have it. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah, let me get the, well, that's good to know that the blue microphone actually makes a difference. Let me post the live stream that I just started. And then we will get officially started. Okay, YouTube is in the Etherpad. For due diligence, I'll put the Hangouts in there. I didn't start sharing my screen yet. Okay. Everybody ready to get started?
Yeah.
Good. Cinder client design discussion, which is Eric and Rajat.
No show on this one.
Sean is in the release team meeting until lunchtime. Do we need to?
I don't know. We can start and see if we have any idea what we're doing, I guess.
Okay, and remember to talk loud enough for Rajat.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure where we landed on this for now. So
Which issue is this? Disallow passing duplicate optional args. Specifying filter arguments to produce the expected results.
So Rajat, do you want to give us some context on where we are at this point on this first topic?
Yeah, sure. Eric posted this bug, and this filtering API has some issues like when we pass multiple similar parameters, like when we pass hyphen filters, then name equal to XYZ, then again name equal to, then it always takes the last parameter.
The client
So
does, right? It's not.
we shouldn't allow this type of we shouldn't even allow passing name multiple times in that. So I proposed a patch for it that disallows multiple similar parameters option, and it hasn't been reviewed since a long time, so I'm not sure. I recently tried it, but it was working much as expected.
Okay.
Also, Eric told me that he will try that 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just pass all the filters in a single arg instead of multiple args?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Why wouldn't you just pass all the filters in a single argument instead of sending dash dash filters multiple times?
How do you do that? Comma separate them or something?
So I have disallowed passing multiple filters. Like if you pass hyphen filters and then again the same, then it will disallow that. So
Okay, I'm confused. I'm reading the notes on the Etherpad, and one of them says proposed fix to disallow passing duplicate args, and then there's another line that says we should allow it. So I'm confused.
I mean, I'm inclined to think we should allow it, but the problem is the client didn't do it right. It would ignore a bunch of them.
actually, the commit message is a little bit wrong also. It disallows duplicate parameters to be passed only once. So we can pass hyphen filters, then name, then sort, then any other part, but we can't allow passing name multiple times.
So what do other clients do with filters? We should try and be consistent if at all possible.
Not sure.
I'm really not getting the words right, like the voices.
So do we know what other clients do in this area?
Other clients like OpenStack client.
Or Nova, or
Yeah.
Glance, or all of them, yeah. Is there any kind of consistent behavior that we should also be mirroring?
Oh, I haven't checked with that. Like,
Well,
just not the same filtering API.
it's clear that the current behavior is not correct. The question is whether we need to make it work or whether we should make it throw an error when you do something that you shouldn't maybe do.
Yeah,
Right now, you just get unexpected behavior, which is kind of the
that's not
worst
good.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah. My assumption was that it wouldn't be too hard to just accept any of the filters arguments and combine them all and send them as one thing, which seems like the expected thing to do.
But when you have the multiple names, you're going to get like an empty result because it's an and on the
Well,
Right.
I don't know. You'll either that or you'll use, if they overlap, you'll use the later one. I don't know.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right. So unexpected behavior could be you specify 8 names, you get a response back, but it's just for the last one.
Well, the behavior that's unexpected right now is if you say sender list filter size equals 2, filter name equals X, it ignores the size one.
Oh,
And it just throws it away. And that
Actually,
we could fix.
there's a problem with the patch. Like when we pass hyphen filters, then name equal to 1, then name again, then it doesn't work on that. It currently works on the optional parameters only, like those which are passed by hyphen. Like,
Yeah.
I think what the Glance client does for this is it's got, dash specific names of the filters.
Well, so we were kind of having that debate again too, because we used to have that, and then we marked all those as deprecated and say, don't use those, use dash filters.
Okay.
And I'm a little skeptical that that was the right thing to do personally, but
I think why they did that is we keep adding new fields, and you don't want to have to add a dash for every new field and modify the client every time. This covers all the bases.
well, I mean,
Or
you could have-
supposed to if it
Yeah.
worked.
I mean, you could have both though, because I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to keep adding new ones, but stuff like name is pretty straightforward, or status. but
Well, I agree with you. If you do dash dash filters, name equals blah, and then filters size equals blah, it should work.
Right.
What happens if you do two names equal, then are you gonna OR those together?
I would think you would probably just use the last one, but I don't know.
I
Don't
don't
have
know.
the,
I think that's also a limitation of the rparse library. Like whenever the code transfers to the shell, then it only takes the last.
Well, I think we can extend our parse to do whatever we want to do with these.
But do we really want to pass multiple names in the query?
Oh, because argparse only sees the last one.
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, we have custom code for grabbing these and doing whatever we want with them already.
Okay.
So we could do different things.
It just really depends on the argparse option, because you can specify option equals a pin, or action equals a pin.
Well, it's not argparse that's the issue though, because all of these are inside of the filters option.
I see.
And then it's like custom processing in there after that.
And then I'm looking at that.
But it probably is, I guess the way we use argparse for dash dash filters, if you pass it twice, it just ignores the first one altogether, which is.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the
not good.
default behavior for anything where where argparse does not have something like action equals a pin.
Yeah.
Or nargs, some of the weird options that.
Yeah,
You can override that behavior, but by default, it will only accept one.
I think we should just decide what we want it to do with the assumption that we can probably
Make it happen.
get it to do what we want once we figure out what that is. Because I'm pretty sure this is flexible enough to do whatever. The problem is we use the action for the filters argument is unique store. And I think that's what means it throws out the first one. It really needs to be an append, which I think Rajat is writing in one of these patches.
So are the filters written as key value pairs?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could just do CSV key value pairs on a single dash dash filters.
Well, you get into weird usability stuff then because
I mean,
it's
it could get ugly looking, but
because if you comma separate them, then it works until someone has a name that has a comma.
And that has a comma
Then
in
the
it,
thing's
yeah.
like, yeah, it seems.
Type separated.
Yeah. everyone would love that.
yeah. I think usability wise, it's easier to understand having the ability to add multiple dash dash filters.
Well, and I don't know how many people want to do that, but it seems like if someone does that, it's pretty obvious what should happen.
Yeah, I agree. They're not just adding dash dash
It
filters
seems
for
it
fun.
seems redundant to add multiple.
If I'm understanding correctly, you're expecting an AND operation if they pass it.
Well, that's
That's the
still up for
question.
debate. We could do that, or we could just, since it's a key value thing, some of them might overlap and some might not. So you could AND them, or you could just replace the later keys, or you could replace the earlier keys with later values if they were specified twice.
Yeah.
That's the kind of more subtle case, but
Well, so I would think it would be easy enough to run the command a second time if you wanted to look for two different names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do we want that to be the case, or say if you wanted two separate names that all have all of these same other filters, you pass it in twice?
I mean,
So it's an or.
Yeah, I'm sorry, an or operation, yeah.
but to do that, you'd have to make two separate API calls, right? Because the APIs.
Or we would have to code a bunch of stuff to query it. I don't know. I really like the idea of
Just ignore it.
having the second key value overwrite the first one if they overlap.
That's the simplest implementation at least. And if if
yeah.
you're familiar with Python argparse, that's
What
the
you
behavior.
expect.
Yeah, what you expect to happen.
I guess if you really want two names, then write it as one and put both of them in the CSV list. But even that doesn't seem,
I don't know, because I think we can do.
I don't know what I would
We
expect.
can
from
do
that.
some kind of text matching with this too, right? But I forget how
Mhm.
it works. Because you can use wildcards and stuff in here too.
Yeah.
So there might be a way to do that already, but I'm not 100% sure.
So the current behavior does the same thing. So the current behavior does the
That was a creepy echo.
Anyone else have an opinion?
I mean, I think
Everyone's quiet.
trying to or names together is going to be more likely to introduce bugs because it's more complicated.
And even if it doesn't introduce bugs, you're going to introduce behavior that people can't predict. And
Yeah.
no one's going to know what it is going to be.
So simplicity.
I could see people looking at it completely differently too, both
Yeah.
ways. I could see people wanting an and I can see other people wanting an or, depending on what they're trying to filter, so.
So I think that the way with the least ambiguity is to just ignore the second. Ignore the first one, take the last.
Yeah, then they could do another query.
So I think that means that
Do we give an option for like JSON output or CSV output?
I think
An
so.
OpenStack client that does.
It does.
Yeah, because if you want to pipe it to, more text processing stuff like awk, you typically attach dash value. But I don't know if Cinder client has that.
Okay.
I was thinking we did somewhere, but
Because if we had that, then
That would
you
make
could
it-
obviously solve the and or problem by letting whoever's doing the querying figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
We give them all the data and then they pipe it through some other
I guess we don't have that.
I'm not really sure about keeping the name.
Keeping the what?
If the user passes two names, then he gets the result. Actually, my voice is echoing.
Well, I think what we've kind of settled on is that you can pass in all the dash filters, key values you want, and each one you pass in will just overwrite the dict of whatever you had from the previous one.
If the user passes two names and he only gets result based on the second one, then isn't that the wrong output?
I think we're deciding it's easier to err that way than to.
figure out
I
whether
don't know
you
that
want to
any-
and those or them.
Yeah,
Is the question.
I don't know that there's any other obvious thing to do when someone actually passes that in.
I think it's kind of an edge case.
Well,
It's usually, the user doesn't understand that everything's ANDed in the query string for the API. So they want to find two volumes with different names, so just slap them in there. And what they get is nothing because there's no volume that's got
That matches both of them. Yeah.
Right.
That's why I'm arguing one person can argue and the next person can argue or, because, hey, I want to find all my volumes that are both named those two things.
Right.
So you do two queries and solve that problem.
I don't see any way in Cinder client to to essentially remove the formatting and just get the data.
yeah, I don't think there is a thing to do that.
Yeah. That's a feature that we could add. Not that anyone's asked for it, but.
I know it's one of my primary reasons for using OpenStack client.
Because we have that, yeah. I think it would be useful to have.
Yeah, for any query that I made, I can say dash value and then I can pipe it to awk and what it said instead, or do whatever.
Yeah, that's nice.
Usually it's to delete everything.
But see, if I want JSON output, I just use requests and create that. So, I don't,
Well, yeah, if I want JSON output, I use the OpenStack SDK.
okay.
Does it have filtering?
It's been a couple of months since I've actually used it, and then last I remember, it was still under heavy development.
Okay.
It doesn't look like
Because
that.
it's an interesting menu.
It's supposed to be
Yeah.
interesting, but
Oh, well, it also can't have filtering because it doesn't have micro versions yet, right?
Oh, OpenStack client still doesn't do micro versions.
The one I have running here doesn't.
Oh,
Somebody was working on that a little while ago for the Cinder part of it, but I don't know.
okay.
So it sounds like what we really just want here is, for now, simple behavior.
Yeah.
And the key thing that's bad is the missing parameters that are being specified, that are being ignored.
Yeah.
So you could also just error out if more than one's provided.
Yeah, you
That
can
way
detect
it's
it
not-
and say,
It also removes some ambiguity that which one's going to be taken, and it
Well,
explicitly tells.
Yeah.
the-
I think that's a good idea. Makes it very clear.
Erroring out if you have multiple of the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me if we don't support doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes it clear why we're picking the second one. You know, instead of just, it would be very confusing. Wait a minute, where's my other results? I have none?
Right.
I'd be,
So let me see here. That-
But you were opposed to that.
Well, I don't know if I am or not. I mean, it sounds kind of sensible.
All right, we've got Eric in a week.
Well, it wasn't that I was. I can't even remember. So, okay, so there's two pieces of it. The patch that Rajat submitted before, I think, would fail if you tried to pass filters twice. And we do have to allow filters to be passed in more than once,
Yeah,
just not the keys inside of the filters. And also probably not the non-filter things like dash dash name. We want to restrict those as well, the same way.
The non-filter thing is restricted, and why do we want to pass filters multiple times?
Just because it's kind of easy, because people think, filter,
Yeah.
and then they'll put a key value.
No, there's a
and then-
reason to pass filters multiple times, because if you want to filter on multiple fields, it's the easiest way to do it without getting into all kind of weird, having to escape a string that has two filters in it and split them into separate filters.
yeah.
But we can do that by passing filters and then key value, and so on.
How do you separate the two pairs of keys and values, though?
By a space, I have done that. It works.
Yeah, well, then you have a dash dash argument that takes a space separated list, which means you can't put anything else after it,
yeah.
which is a whole nother problem. I really don't think we want to do that,
I agree.
because that's not how most CLIs work.
And if you have two name equals foo filters, I'd want that to be or.
sounds like rather than making it be or now, it's a lot easier to just not do it. So, I mean, we could make it be or.
Would you expect that to be an and ever? Why would you expect that to ever return anything? Because you're never going to have two of those two volumes that have the same.
I was trying to think through whether that was always going to be true for the filter case. I wonder if we have a filter that
Can a filter be a regex?
well, we have this like thing, which is not a regex, but it's a searchable stringy, globby kind of thing.
Oh, does that go directly into the database as a like foo?
I think
Command?
so. It's kind of odd, but it lets you do some simple text searches.
Have we done any SQL injection testing?
Yeah.
This scares me.
That was just the thought I had.
Fortunately, the way that we use SQL Alchemy makes it really hard to
Okay.
have issues with that in general, but
Okay.
I doubt anyone's tried that hard. But I thought about it a while ago, and it's the way that SQL Alchemy constructs all of our queries. It's like pretty robust in general.
Okay. I guess it does bind underneath it all, or
I can't remember.
okay.
And it's supposed to check for that kind of stuff. I think we have that in our tests.
So I'm going to write some cases here.
Hey,
I like the idea of having multiple dash filters for if you want to filter on multiple columns. I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. That makes sense to me.
And until we can decide what we want to do with the multiple name or multiple column searches, I say we just detect it and error out and say we don't support that.
So that's this case, right? So this should fail, right? The one that I just wrote there.
There, look it up. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Jay, some of the things are wrong. Can I correct them?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Some of the things I typed are wrong.
Yes, in the second case, it takes both the filters, the size and the name.
So for the second case, okay.
Oh, wait. No, that was Eric that was typing.
Hang on.
Yeah, filter size equal to and filters name equals B. That should work, in my opinion.
It should work, but I
Yeah.
don't think it does work right now.
It is working.
That works today?
So is it when you combine it all into one?
That was the whole
Those-
bug I
yeah,
wrote,
those-
was that it didn't work.
Oh. I thought that was what initiated this whole discussion.
It is, and I just ran it with dash debug, and it ignores size
Okay.
when you do it.
Oh, so it works in the case that it looks like it works, but it doesn't?
Yeah, it only uses the second one.
Okay, all right. That makes sense.
So are there other cases here too? Oh, well, so there's also, if you do, what is this supposed to do? If you do, I don't know.
That should fail, just like it does if you do dash filters name equals
I
twice.
agree, but that's probably going to be harder to code, but that's fine. Let's see what it does now.
So I'm guessing the Cinder client doesn't actually look at what those key value pairs actually are now at all, and it just gets passed?
Oh, so this currently,
I haven't seen it.
Okay. I don't know either.
well, I mean, I'm running these right now to see what they do.
Okay.
Because you can just run it with dash debug and
Oh, it shows
So
you
you-
what
so-
it's passing to the API.
yeah, so calling it with dash name and then filters name, it's the same as when you do two filters, you just lose the first one.
I say that's a bug.
Well, yeah, that's why, I mean, that's what I said in the thing here too. I'm kind of scared to find out what happens with the like filter thing with all these. I guess it's
Crash the database.
I guess it's mostly going to be about the same, but
Yeah, we don't allow that in Glass because we're afraid of the database getting.
If you think about it, if you think about it though, a like name equals something, a like name equals something else actually is a valid query.
Well, that's part of what I started thinking
Yeah.
through, and there's might be a case there that's. Yikes. I don't know what we want to do with that case. I'm kind of inclined to ignore it for now.
I think the easy thing to do is to add functionality to test dash nest name and dash dash filters name, the duplicates of those, and throw an error. Instead of just letting it go now and you get unexpected results.
So yeah, it doesn't work when we pass filter multiple times, but it works when we space separate those key value pairs.
How does that work? Oh, we're probably just grabbing everything after the filters, and then that's why.
That says invalid.
And then you could never put anything after that then.
I'm not sure that works though, because I just ran it and it threw an error.
Was that because it's a space separated list?
Well, that's kind of my. I don't know that this whole space separated thing, if it does work, it's probably by accident.
I think it's by
It
accident.
does try to work, but then it fails in the API. So if you put dash dash filters, I'll just keep that list. Let's test all of them here.
Oh, that works?
Well, it tries to send it,
tries.
but then the server barfs on it.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
With a message that's odd, because I don't. That seems like another bug we have to figure out.
Yeah,
on the
that seems
server.
like another bug. Yeah, this seems very broken.
Oh man, it's just the list command. No one uses that.
We probably need a note to update the API reference, because it doesn't list all the filters you can use.
Well, that's a whole other thing that I was having a discussion about recently, because I brought that up on IRC in one of our related debates about is public. Because what we've done is we've exposed like object fields or DB fields as something you can filter on, which is tied to like the database schema, but is not solidified in the API, which means that anytime we go change the schema, the filtering stuff is going to change.
Right, which is not.
And I raised this, and I think Sean said, well, that's fine, it doesn't matter. And then that was kind of as far as we got with it. I'm still a little unsure what we should.
That's really only a problem if we change the name of some of the columns. And how often has that happened?
Well, I don't know, but I'm starting to think that the is public name is kind of a bad one.
Yeah, we probably don't want to expose that kind of thing.
Well, we already have.
So we don't do any restrictions on the filtering at all?
I think we might. I don't remember how that works. How do we?
I don't know. I haven't looked into the details of this. Didn't John write this?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I know he was an
So
advocate for this.
We do some filtering on it, but I don't know really how it works anymore.
Like, could you do a search on the database ID?
Well, that's actually what I just tried. It said invalid.
Okay.
So what we do, that's right. So we have get enabled. You can configure what you can filter on.
Oh, and the resource filters.
Yeah. So it's whatever the default collection is what you kind of normally get. So it's actually.
Oh, yeah.
resource filters.json. So we didn't expose everything, but we did expose is public, and now we can't really rename it to something else if we wanted to.
Yeah, I say theoretically that's an issue, but I don't think we've ever really renamed columns, especially in the volumes table, since its
Yeah.
inception. I mean, that would cause all kinds of issues.
Well, the is public one is just interesting because Glance actually did change that one.
Oh, they did?
It's an example migration with Alembic.
That's one that they actually,
But yeah,
they changed it from a Boolean to a 4-value integer thing that means something different.
Oh.
Because it's not is public anymore, it's visibility, and there's different types of visibility.
Oh, wow.
And then if
so
we
they
wanted-
changed the whole semantic of it.
Right.
So is public really went away and was replaced with something
Well, I don't know
else?
what they called it. I
Right.
was just talking conceptually, but
well, his public actually went away with the V2 API, even though it was still only 2 valued. So yeah, it was a mess. Yeah. So we had to.
I mean, if we
talked about
drop
that.
columns because we changed the semantic of it, that's still valid. And yeah, you can't search on it in it anymore, but that's also valid too. You shouldn't be able to search for something that doesn't exist.
well, it's valid, but then it gets real tricky, like when he said we should go write this in the API doc.
Yeah,
Because then
yeah,
we're
yeah.
like solidifying it as a thing that we support.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody stops through.
Well,
how to
what
do
would be
that.
cool is if you did a dash help on filters and it showed you the list of valid columns.
You can do that, I think.
That would be helpful.
There's an API
Yeah.
that does that, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it's.
It's a resource. Yeah, what's the
So it's just V3 project ID /
list?
resource.
You can call Cinder list filters,
Okay.
and it'll,
Ah.
yeah, it actually does that.
Perfect.
That's nice.
There you go.
Why is name not that?
And where?
Volume type, volume, snapshot, pool. Oh, sorry,
Okay,
the
right.
filters are on the right, the resources on the left. Gotcha, never mind.
So different filters for different.
Cool. So this kind of segues into our next topic, I think, which it sounds like we've mostly figured out the first one.
Can we put together some
Can we put a summary saying
agreements
what we've agreed
and
to?
to-dos to come out of this? Because it turned into a debug session, which is good.
Size is not a valid filter and did Rajai. Size isn't a valid feature filter in resource filters.json. That sounds like a bug.
We can add that.
Oh, size is not listed as one of the ones you can query.
Oh,
So that's why.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty safe one that we could allow, probably.
yeah. Why is that excluded in the resource filters?
Yeah. I guess people just forgot to put it in there.
Well, but it's
Okay.
also, it might be because the behavior's kind of weird because you'll get
Well, we're fixing
lines of that
so it's-
size.
Oh, of only that size. Do you expect it to be anything up to that?
Or, yeah.
Well, I think
It's not the
that's
size of the volume.
I
it's
think
how you
looking
use
for volumes that match exactly that size is fine.
Okay.
I mean, it would be nice to be able to do other things, but I think that's
I use
reasonable. It's the one case where it ended up being a good decision that Cinder only allows gigabyte multiples.
Yeah, because it's,
Uh-huh.
This is the one time that turned out to be good.
Yeah. We found it finally.
It only took many years. to do it.
Only 8 years of searching.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first to do is Rajat's patch needs to be updated based on the discussion. Because we want to allow multiple dash filters.
Yeah.
And are we going to error out on multiple names?
Yeah, that was my whole list of examples there.
Okay.
Kind of describes what we should have happen, I think. And we're gonna just treat the like searches the same as the equal searches for any current work on this.
Okay. Ah, who just did that?
Hmm?
Somebody just totally messed up the Etherpad.
It's just a bunch of blink lines. That's fine.
Ugh.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Only one person fixed that though.
All right,
Yeah, let's all fix it at the same time.
nobody touch the Etherpad right now.
Hit the save revision button before something happens.
Where's that?
It's kind of like the workshop that we were in the other day that had the huge list of IP addresses that were assigned to individual people.
Right.
Someone wiped it all out. We couldn't go back.
Does this not have save revision?
And I think you just have that slider.
Oh, we can just slide it back a second.
Yeah, but you can't stay there.
Yeah, it's got the slider.
This Etherpad settings.
Yeah.
All right, nobody touched
All right.
the Etherpad.
Yeah. So we found an Etherpad bug on a internal Etherpad service at Red Hat a while ago, where everyone was just sitting there writing things, and then it flipped into some crazy thing where everything that was written was coming out as like Japanese Unicode characters and stuff,
Well,
and
apparently,
the whole thing just went off the rails.
That's pretty
well, and there's apparently somebody's using some filter that converts web pages to Japanese or Chinese, but for Etherpad, it saves the
It
changes.
writes it into
So our entire team meeting Etherpad was converted to
Oh my God.
Chinese
Can we
and
not
lost.
save revisions in this thing?
Well, what we had to do is time slide back to where it was before, delete all the gunk, do a copy paste. And then you
Awesome.
lose the
Etherpad
colored.
service that we use internally. You can hit like save and give it a name, and then it's like a bookmark
That would be nice.
thing. I don't know why this doesn't do that.
Well, because they're supposed to be ephemeral.
Yeah,
We don't use them like that.
Huh, sounds a lot like ephemeral volumes and some of those things. Oh, there's a save revision button
Where?
right there.
Oh, nice.
No,
How do you get to the saved revision then?
Probably in the time slider. Time slider.
Time slider.
I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah, there's a star in the time slider.
Am I the star?
Yeah, well, I assume so. I'm just glad that we finally learned how to use Etherpad.
5 years in.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I think, do you agree with my summary of the situation? Time slider.
Yeah, seems right to me.
Okay,
And
because
I-
it doesn't have a work item for you.
And I think this still correlates with what we had in the bug I wrote too. Yeah.
Okay,
Should I remove my -2 so that this can go somewhere when I'm on vacation?
yes, please. All the to-dos and then leaving for going to the mountains where there's no internet for 2 weeks.
Hey, nobody gives me to-dos in the mountains. So it is public, huh? Is the next thing.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is, it's kind of related to this.
Okay.
already,
Yeah, okay, so shall we continue on to that
I guess.
for shits and giggles?
So,
Should I start?
Yeah. Please do.
So currently the API, if we do a curl request with volume types, then it returns only public types by default. And if we do a same request from the client, then it passes is public equal to none. That will return both public and private types. And that's a mismatch in the behavior. I have provided the links in the discussion that I've linked there.
Yeah, it's strange because it looks like when we designed the API, somebody decided that the default should be to see public only. But then when somebody wrote the client, they decided the default should be to see everything. So when you just call type list, it passes in an argument that says, show me all of them. And then the question was like, if that's the default, why is the default in the server the opposite of that?
Yeah.
And it's not clear what the goal really should be for how this works.
I think the private types aren't allowed for non-admins. That's why they put public types only for the API.
Well, it's not non-admin. It's that they are viewable by the admin or the person that has access to them, I think. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And so you were writing a patch. What was your patch trying to do originally in this area?
It was just adding a command to provide the is public filter. Like there was no way of providing this public thing.
Yeah, so I think the patch originally added a -- is public option, and then I said we should really do it as a filters thing, which I only say because all of the things like -- is public currently say they're deprecated. So I was kind of assuming we weren't going to add new ones, even though.
Yeah, so I added in the filters part, and then the concern was why it was passing none by default.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we can keep doing that, but it seemed like we should evaluate whether any of this was actually doing the correct thing or not. And I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah, it was the same for the group type list and I think other commands also.
The other thing,
And really, we always pass all tenants equal to 1 and is public equal to none for all the commands.
yeah. So, I mean, if we go with the assumption that the way all of this is designed currently is kind of okay, then I think the patch is fine. I was objecting to it before I figured out the current state of all of this. So, I mean, the main question is, do we think the current behavior is actually the right behavior in general? And I don't really know if it is or not.
I think it is right from the client side. Like, why should we provide is public equal to true of the, like by default, why should we filter out only the public types?
Well, I mean, the interesting question is for the server side, right?
Yes, I think we need to make corrections on the server side.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking for opinions on. I mean, we don't have to, but I'm trying to figure out if anybody thinks we should or not. What does Glance do?
So with Glance, you get the default list of the stuff you have access to.
Which is what I would think would
So
be the
it's
right
public
thing to
and
do.
private, and we have shared community stuff, but
Right.
it's a basic thing.
So that's not what we do, because what we do is you don't see the private ones you have access to unless you ask to see them.
I guess with volume types, I mean, I'm not familiar with the usage, like customer-wise. I mean, is it common that people would have a lot of private volume types?
I don't
Or is it more
know.
common that you just
I don't know that I've ever really interacted with people that use private volume types, so I have no idea.
So it's a different, because with the images, you're expecting you're gonna have a lot of your own stuff, so you naturally want to see them.
Does anyone know if anyone uses private volume types?
I don't know.
I don't.
I
I've
always
never-
thought it was the administrator that sets them up and then everyone just uses what's available because the admin knows what backend volume is, the
Right.
drivers that's available, all the features of them. I mean,
Right. but
because
the-
we don't expose really
Well, the
what
user-
backends are.
The user is supposed to be able to list the ones that they can.
So then I guess in that
see.
case, you probably want the combined list to show up, because otherwise the user might not know, I gotta look for my private type.
Well, that would be my assumption as well. And the interesting thing is that I guess whoever wrote the client was thinking that way, but whoever wrote the server was not thinking that way. So there's this weird
Right.
impedance mismatch between the defaults in each one, which seems just bizarre. But I mean, it works. It's just kind of strange.
Also, there is a problem in the API. Whenever a non-admin tries to access the private types, it only checks for admin and non-admin. It should also check for the owner of that project.
Oh,
That sounds like item number 40 that we broke when we did all that policy stuff a while ago. I bet that's where that happened. Well, we should fix that. I mean, you might as well just write a bug on that because that's just wrong.
yeah, you shouldn't see other projects stuff at all.
Well, no, I think what he was saying was you wouldn't see yours
Your own.
even if you were supposed to.
Oh, your
I
own.
think yours would be hidden from you.
Oh.
Very secure.
Yeah, well,
Maybe nobody uses these if we haven't heard.
They can't see them.
Gee, I swear I made that type. All right, I'll just do it again.
Well, we should fix that.
yeah.
So if we go back to the patch that you were writing for Cinder Client, I guess to maintain the same show everything by default from the client, you had to put extra code in to fill in the filters argument for is public. Is that what was going on in there?
Should we actually raise the issue in the tests that it was passing all tenants by default? Sorry, the is public equal to none by default.
Right. Yeah, it's like the only Cinder, get list operation that throws arguments on there when you don't specify any arguments. It's kind of odd, but yeah, I think we at least understand. Well, I don't know that we understand the why, but we at least understand what's happening there. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I would be generally okay with just kind of leaving it all in the strange state that it's already in, because we're not making it any worse. If nobody thinks we really need to fix this right now.
So now it's just the client will display everything you've got, whereas if you make the API call,
Right.
you won't see that.
Which is not terrible. It's just kind of a strange design.
Right.
We hear very little feedback ever from people who use Cinder Client as a library. So I don't really know how they feel about stuff like this.
Right.
It just works.
I mean, it probably does most of the time. Or when they run into stuff like this, they just hack through it and then keep going.
And they can work around the API side by specifying as public.
Yeah. If you pass as public as none, you get the same thing, because that's what the shell does.
Okay.
So I don't know. Since everyone
If you
seems
did is public true, you would get only public. If you did is public false, you should get only private. So in order to make it a 3 value, you take none and then you get both.
yeah, we're going to assume the default case works. It sounds like it might not, because it sounds like the policy checks might be wrong, but that's a different bug. So I don't know.
Excuse me.
I don't see any harm in just going along with the current state of things. Really, now that we figured out what the state of things actually is, I mean, it's not terrible to just keep going with it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to be passing an extra filter, but it's preserving current behavior. So
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
I haven't gone through this patch enough to figure out whether it does all that correctly, because I was more trying to figure out the overall API design of all this stuff. But, yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. So okay, so who's gonna take fixing the policy bug?
I don't know.
Is it really related to policy? Like, I don't see any policy related thing in the code that I just mentioned.
I mean, it sounded related to policy. I don't know that we've conclusively determined that yet. But, said the simple
In the code, it's
uh,
admin and not admin.
yes, he said the code in the server was looking at whether it was admin or not, right? Which I think is not.
I think we need to add an additional check in that.
Yeah, it needs to be like an admin or owner kind of thing, I believe. Well, it's not even that though. It's I don't remember how this all works. Because don't private types have like ACLs associated with them? Yeah. So it's not even admin or owner. It's like admin, or you have a type access entry that says you can use that type.
Yeah, there can be multiple private types, so we should only allow that owner.
So that's separate from the policies.
Well,
That's,
I don't know if it is or not. I mean, sort of, but
yeah.
it sounds like currently the code might just check admin or not admin,
Right.
which is, yeah.
Hmm?
So I can try to work on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's at least make sure we get it documented as a bug. Oh, type access add requires you to pass in dash arguments to even like two of them. This is not how it's supposed to work. The whole point of dash arguments is
And so did we land on the patch above should be reviewed and merged or is not needed? I got
It's,
lost on that.
I think it's actually probably about right.
Okay,
I have to look at it again, but
Okay.
the idea sounds right.
okay. So that cover everything you guys had on that topic?
As far as I know.
Okay, that's good. Avoiding untyped volumes, how that going?
Well, I'm not really the one doing it anymore, so I think you got to ask Rajat how it's going.
How's it going, Rajat?
Yeah, I can explain the flow that I'm implementing in my patch.
Okay,
So currently I'm creating a default volume type on time of Cinder DB migration. And I have written an online migration that will convert all volume type ID, which is none, to the default volume type. And also I am making the tables that has the column volume type ID to none. Oh, sorry, the nullable field I'm setting it to. And so the default volume type is created. We can't modify it. We can't delete it. And currently I'm modifying the test as most of the tests allow volume type to be none. So I'm modifying them to actually work in this case.
okay.
I have mentioned the statement in the patch also, the commit message. Also in the spec document.
Okay.
Did we agree on one of the previous meetings that default volume type name should be dash dash default dash dash underscore?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we landed
Yes,
on.
because I see some inconsistency in the patch with it, and I don't think we. Oh, it's more for quarterly perspective, but I don't think we don't need to use some even default config values in migration scripts. Because
No default value. Well, I don't
no
understand.
config options in migration, database migrations.
Is that a rule that we have?
Not the rule, but previously we've got some issues with default quotas and migrations.
It is an interesting.
Wait, what is it?
I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah, I don't.
issue or question.
Okay, so
Sorry.
this patch uses some.
Oh, that's just to declare constant.
Oh,
I think he defined the actual value in the volume types file itself.
oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was my misunderstanding. So,
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're all in agreement on where that's heading.
Well, I wasn't really in agreement, but I kind of said, you guys can do what you want since people didn't like my idea. I still think we're doing it in a way that's more complicated than we need to. That's what people want to do. So.
What's less complicated?
Well, this is, I don't really love this idea of this requiring a upgrade checker to make this work right. Which was what came out of one of the last IRC discussions on it, I think.
But the upgrade checker will be required, else my migration will fail.
Say that again?
The up checker is required, so we don't allow any underscore default that name of thing.
Well, the upgrade checker is not required in the proposal that I had that people didn't like. But yeah, it's a valid way to do this if we want to. I'm skeptical that it's going to work because I'm still not sure that anyone actually runs upgrade checkers until the next release. But that's kind of a more general concern about upgrade checkers in general outside of this particular case.
So
Wasn't it a fairly new thing? So
Yeah,
Well, the problem is the way it's designed is if you want to upgrade to Stein, you have to install Stein and then run the checker, which I think is nuts. I think if you want it to work, you really need to like backport them to the previous release because I just have a hard time seeing people doing that.
that's a different question then.
Well, it's related because my proposal was to not have an upgrade checker to do this feature.
So what's the upgrade checker is just checking to see if the default name is already in use.
checking the corner case where somebody already has an underscore default underscore volume type,
Yeah,
which is,
And what do we do in the case if they do?
tell them to go fix it, I think.
yeah,
Okay.
Which is, again, part of why I didn't.
saying this is
Love this.
a reserved name.
We say you can't upgrade until you go rename your stuff, basically.
Because it might contain extra specs about that
Yeah.
backend.
Yeah, I get that. I guess it's theoretically possible.
But it's an extreme edge case.
Well, okay, so I get your comment about it making it complicated because really the right way to solve that is to make the name that we pick for the default optionally defined in cinder.conf. But if you're going to do that, you're going to name the default.
Well, I
volume
was
type in
also
there anyway.
proposing that we could, I was proposing that if somebody had volumes that already had a type called default, just the word default, and if it didn't have extra specs, you could just slap that on volumes that didn't have a type because there was no extra specs and that wouldn't do anything if you did that.
It's the same thing we're doing, basically.
Well, the
We're just
difference,
picking the name.
The difference in my proposal was that instead of doing all of this checking and forcing people to change stuff, I was leaning more toward, if it's safe to do, move the volumes over to the type, whether it's an existing type or one we create or whatever. And if we can't find a safe way to do that that won't impact anything, then just don't do it and leave stuff how it is now. Because I think opting for that is probably easier than trying to code our way around the corner cases.
Leaving it untyped?
Yeah. Because most people, it would migrate and be fine. And the corner cases, instead of getting told they can't upgrade, would just upgrade and have the same behavior they have now. But like I said, either one of them works. I think we are generating more work the way we're doing it. But if people want to code it, I mean, that's fine. It will work.
Yeah.
I just think it's not really the easiest way to do it.
I don't have a strong opinion about it.
Sean had a strong opinion.
Yeah, last time we talked about this, there was a whole bunch of yelling about bike sheds and driveways and crap. So I don't know what the opinion was, but there was opinions in there somewhere. So whatever. I mean,
Teal.
Well, one
If-
way to look at this is, do we want to force all volumes to have a type? Because we have never done that. So
Well,
that's part of this discussion.
the decision, the whole premise of this is that we do want to do that. I mean, that was kind of the point.
If that's the case, then we have to pick one.
Yeah.
And so
Well-
this what he's doing now seems like a road to go down there.
Or you just make the name more flexible and you just generate a name if you can't find the one that we would like them to have. But
Can be a UID type.
We're generating one name,
yeah,
a fixed one name called underscore default.
yeah,
I mean, we could do what IRC does, and if that is, instead of having to have an
Just
upgrade checker,
append
just
more
append
underscores
more
at the end of it?
underscores,
yeah.
if that makes you feel better.
Rajat's gonna go code it. You can ask
Okay.
him what he wants to do.
Do you like to append underscores, Rajat?
So the
I
only
don't have a
purpose of
problem
that is to
with any-
avoid the update check, upgrade checker. Because then there would be no conflict. That's all you're doing by picking a name that you think is unique and continuing to try until you do find one.
Well, we already kind of went down that line of thinking, which was how we got underscore default.
I know.
Yes.
That's kind of,
You know, I don't know.
All right, let's address your concern by adding underscores. And now the edge case
You
is.
don't have to do that.
I know,
yeah.
but
The only purpose of doing that is avoiding this upgrade check. That's the only thing you're buying by doing that.
yeah,
But we will still be getting an upgrade check for underscore default.
Well, the other point too is if we're going to have an upgrade check, can we just call it default instead of having a weird looking thing with underscores on it? If we're going to have an upgrade check either way, why did we have to give it such a weird name?
Because we're trying to be unique. So we have.
Because Sean suggested that we
trying a
can
little bit, but we're not trying that
deploy.
hard. That's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's an interesting trade-off. I mean,
Yep. You're right.
underscore.
The user can
admin.
have default as the type of backend.
I think we can just go forward with what everybody agreed on already and just do it.
Okay.
Like,
Underscore admin was too lazy to create type underscore.
That's right.
All right.
Do we allow renaming types?
if we do, I'm sure you have to like not have any volumes on it.
Yeah.
So it probably doesn't really matter.
I mean, it's just a database
Yeah.
column. It's not the association itself.
Right.
The ID is.
Right. I think our API won't let you do it. I mean, for something like this behind the scenes, we could maybe do it. I don't know, where were you going with that?
I was just thinking that, well, if there's a conflict, then they have the ability to change it easily before, as a result of the failure of the upgrade check.
Well, and then the
And then we
question
could
is-
pick default.
But then the obvious question is, why don't we just rename it for them if it's not that big of a deal to rename it instead of making them fail an upgrade?
Yeah, I guess we could, but I don't like
But
choosing other
I'm
people's names for them.
Yeah.
just not sure that hinging all this on this upgrade checker thing is going to make anybody happy. I mean, there's this assumption that everyone wants to run upgrade checks and have them fail and then have stuff to fix and then do the upgrade again.
Well, I thought
I'm
the
not
upgrade
sure.
check stuff was a goal across all projects, right?
yeah,
Whether
Yeah,
it's
but
a
the
good
scope
idea or
of what-
not
The
is,
scope of what they're supposed to do is not very well defined, though.
well,
I was kind of thinking this was not really what they would be for, but I mean, like I said, it will work.
my understanding was
Um,
is that they're for making sure that when you upgrade from one to the next, there's no conflicts and database issues and
It's, it
you
is
aren't
going
going to
to
run
be.
into major problems like that. And this sort of is in the gray area.
I mean, it's too bad Alan just walked off because it's going to be pretty interesting whenever this upgrade check fails, like halfway through a O upgrade, and then says go rename your thing. It's
Well,
I don't
sure, but that could be the case for any issues related to upgrade checks failing.
yeah. We're not the only ones who are going to have that.
Yeah.
And O fails halfway through install. all the
okay.
time.
Well, I don't give crap about AAA for the purposes of this discussion. It was a point
I
of
know.
deployment tools.
No, that's a good point. I'm
That's
just
true.
saying.
I mean, from the point of view of, the advantage I see in the underscore default, underscore is just that, as things progress, you'll be able to see which volume consistently across the platform, which volume type, I'm thinking of people who are supporting stuff, which volume type was default one, has no extra specs,
Yeah.
was being used as opposed to something else that was named.
But we're not gonna create that if they already
Well, I thought,
had one, right? I'm
No,
trying to
I thought-
remember now.
the idea behind this was, this is the default
Oh, yeah,
type
yeah.
that's coming into play.
Yeah, hence the upgrade check,
So the
forcing
only-
them to change the name
in case
because
they
we are
already-
forcing you to use this
Right.
name as the default that has no specs.
Yeah.
I thought that was supposed to happen if they didn't currently have a default type already. I don't know, maybe I'm getting lost on this now.
Well, I think
Yeah, I think
if they
so.
have, if they've like done their own thing for this, there'll be no null columns in the database. And so the
Right.
migration won't be putting this thing in anyway.
Correct.
So it'll
Right.
only happen if they change their.
But is it still
configuration.
gonna create the type?
I think it will still create the default type in the
Okay.
migration script, but no
Yeah.
volumes will be associated with it
Right.
because
Right.
they already have one.
Right.
Yeah, so that works.
Yeah, because there will be no untyped volumes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll just be this volume type that's not ever used.
Right.
Big deal.
And now I'm wondering, after the previous discussion, what happens if your default volume type is private? And then we make one that's public, if something crazy is gonna happen. Can you have a private default volume type?
I don't think that makes sense.
I don't know if it makes sense. I'm just wondering if you can do it. That's a
Oh,
whole
I'm
different
sure you
question.
probably can. I don't know what happens.
But
on
why?
startup.
The why is because if you can, someone probably is.
Someone probably is going to try. I mean,
This
that's-
is the why. Someone's probably already doing it if you can do it.
Yeah,
It's
we'd have to
tied
look at
key
the,
infrastructure too.
Yeah.
That makes sense if you got more than one tenant.
Well, again, I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying that history has shown that someone's probably doing it.
Yes.
well, if it is, I think it's a bug, but then we could.
Have to check it.
All right,
Because we
so
would-
are we okay with this patch and the mechanism and the idea behind it? And
I think so. We should
Yes.
probably write a bug that says we should go evaluate whether default volume type is actually public as a whole separate thing.
yeah.
Um, Because our
Okay.
code probably should do that. But what happens if they have like a
No.
default volume type configured in the config, but it doesn't actually exist?
I'm sure it will fail to start
Then it will error out.
What will error out?
the volume service.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, when you run so they probably couldn't run it.
It didn't used to do that. It
No, I
used-
think it used to fail and create.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, fail and create.
And it may still be that way. Well, no. Because
We'll check it.
OSP doesn't set a default volume type.
I think it does now, doesn't it?
No. By default, you get untyped volumes.
Yeah, it does now.
Oh, in the next release, in 13, it's still,
I think that was fixed in 13.
okay.
What I remember is the senior code says like, get me the volume type. And it says, okay, we'll look for a volume type called the default volume type value. And just-
So currently what I've implemented is if the configured volume type is not found, then it will use the default volume type. Like if we configure the default volume type as cinder.conf and it isn't found, then we will use the name that I have provided.
Oh. So you're gonna change the volume type? If-
That doesn't
if they- That doesn't
sound
seem right. So if they enter a bogus volume type that doesn't exist, you're just gonna change it to the default on create?
No, we can't do that.
No, we can't do that.
I don't think that's what he said, is it?
I don't know.
So we should create a default volume type that they have mentioned in the cinder.conf.
No,
No.
if they've got one set that doesn't exist, then we need to fail.
I think we should fail at start.
I don't know if I care where we fail, but we need to fail at least before volumes get created. Startup probably is the right place to do that.
I would fail at start.
Everything works. but volume created without volume type.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, I just checked it.
Okay.
It does what? The create field?
Everything starts up, create
I-
works, but there's
I-
no volume type
yes.
specified.
Even if you've written that you wanted one? Yeah, that's not good.
I set default volume type in the config to some non-existent volume type. I restarted everything for Cinder and created volume, and it's available.
Shit.
Oh, we gotta fix that too.
Yeah, let's fix that one too.
Okay, honestly, it's too big a goal mistake, but I don't think we fixed
That's
it.
fine, yeah. Okay, so there's another bug.
Oh, we'd found all the volume type bugs by now.
Nope.
It's been a hot
See, this
period for
exercise
years.
is helping us find it.
I swear I wrote something in the past to try to avoid that. Which was if they started up and they didn't have the default volume type that they had specified, we created it. And there was all kinds of controversy over that, but
So here's a use case. I could see someone deploying Cinder, full well knowing that they're going to create this volume type and they specify it.
Right.
Because they have to have Cinder up and running
Yeah.
in order to
do
create
it.
the volume type to begin with. And so,
You know where we should fail it is in the
I think we have to
scheduler,
fail
probably.
the
creation.
scheduler should fail saying, hey,
Yes.
you don't have this anymore, and not even get to,
So yeah, failing it on create is probably actually the right thing to do.
yeah. Yep. And then once it exists, it'll work.
14,
okay,
most unique.
okay. So that's why I don't see it in 13. Well, that's a good fix. Thank you. Because it drives me nuts.
Well, we did that because
Yarr.
we did that because we could do it faster than this one. Was the motivation.
So to back shed on this a little bit more, do we
Yeah.
allow people to add extra specs to the default volume type that we create?
I think we have to,
Yeah,
because otherwise, like, it's gonna just. I think we have to, because I don't know why we would want to not let them do that.
So we migrate, we assign a bunch of volumes to this new volume type that has no extra specs, and they go in and add an extra spec to it.
Well, you can't if
can't
it has
do that?
volumes.
no,
You have to have no volumes on it to add the specs. So I think that will be okay.
That would be okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
If we don't allow to do that, if,
And if
Because they would have to have retyped them off and then modified it and then retype them back or whatever. And if they're going to
Okay.
do that, then they know what they're.
they know what they're doing to begin with, and they should
Yeah.
just create their own default type and specify in Cinder.com.
Or if they want to use ours, I mean, it'll do what they want it to do. So I think that's okay.
So on this migration, if there is a default volume type set and it exists, we use that instead of the __ default?
Yes, though for what we assign to ones that are none,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think so.
But how do we know that
No,
default
No,
volume
we
type,
can't.
No.
'cause
like
it-
it, any name?
I wanted to do that if it didn't have extra specs in it, but it sounds like we're gonna just lean toward the default one, so. that
But if
seems
they
to
have
me-
a default volume type set, one would assume that the number of untyped volumes.
Exist multiple volume types that don't have extra specs.
I guess they'll just have to retype all those.
Yeah, but since none of them have extra specs, that's easy,
Yeah.
so, because the retype doesn't do
Yeah,
anything.
okay. I was just thinking in the case that they do have one set and it has extra specs, they want all their volumes to be a minimum of that.
Yeah, they'll just have to do a retype
They'll retype
exercise.
the ones that we assign.
Because that's the only way that we would get everything beaten into the right place anyway.
Yeah,
So that makes sense.
okay. All right, I'm good with this then.
Sounds good.
Okay.
This is not correct. Okay.
What?
Create succeeded. That was the whole problem with this bug.
Or it succeeded? Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry. How about a 5-minute breaks, maybe 10, since we've been going for an hour and a half?
Yeah, back here at 10:50.
Sounds good.
Great, so we'll pick back up at 10:50. We'll talk about hardware acceleration, and then we'll go meet with the Nova team.
Will we have first project session with Nova in this room or in Nova's room?
I need to ping Eric, and see what he wants to do.
Okay, could you please add a note to the user part of whenever you know?
Yes, I will add it to the Etherpad final.
Probably I will miss the next session.
Hey, where is this capabilities thing supposed to be scheduled? Did you move it somewhere?
I haven't moved it yet.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.